So we'll start with the house, because the house, according to your experiences, do you think that maybe this house, which you said was older, probably about 1800s, do you think that
Yeah,
might have held on to some type of energy or something to that effect?
possibly.
Okay.
I was actually just talking with my nanny yesterday,
Uh-huh.
because she's had the experiences too.
Really?
We live in our town. It's very native. There's a lot of natives here, and that culture is in this area and a lot of that land. I haven't had the time really to study it, but I know that a lot of the areas here are native land,
Okay.
and when they remove, a lot of the activity picks up. So
Yeah.
I don't know specifically about my land, the property that we live on or the neighborhood we're in, but I mean, it's northern Michigan, so there's a
Okay.
lot of history.
Yeah, there'd be a lot of history there. But now, northern Michigan, was there anything that was fought, maybe wars or anything like that, that might have been, that might attribute to that native land
Uh,
being kind of,
I don't know, to be honest with you.
okay.
I know maybe further up north in like the UP.
Okay.
I think there was some can war when they were going to Canada between that and around the lakes and whatnot, but I
Okay.
can't give you a solid
That's
answer.
okay. That's all right. No, that's fine. So now I want you to, if you could just let our, listeners and the viewers know just a little bit about some of the experiences that you've had at this house, and how long did you say that you've lived at this house currently?
We got it in December of 2020, so
Okay.
about a year now.
Oh, so
Yeah.
all of these experiences have really been just kind of picked up then more recently.
hmm Yeah, ever since like once my daughter was born,
Hmm.
it's become pretty prevalent. Like it's like it's kind of scary, but like not so much because I feel like there's something that's negative and I feel like there's also a positive,
Okay.
with
Okay.
that. Because we actually recently just had something really cool happen.
Really?
Um, yes. So I guess I can start to when we first like because when we moved in, I didn't want to think about it. I was like, we're gonna move into this house and everything's gonna be fine, whatever. And I always had like these weird feelings. But it wasn't until, like I said, I was 6 months pregnant and we were gonna go on a road trip. We were going down to see our family in Indiana.
Okay.
Um, I walked around the house, grabbed the dog, made sure all the lights were turned off. And as I was shutting our door, because we have like an entryway, so there's a door, then you go in there and go outside. I was in the entryway shutting the door, and I hear something just slam. And I don't know if it was from the downstairs bedroom or the bathroom. But I went in there and we couldn't find anything. I searched upstairs. There was nothing that fell. I was checking shampoo bottles. None of that
Hmm.
fell. So it was really weird. I was like, you know what? We're just going to go on this trip. We're going to forget about it.
Right.
Um, so then when we got home, I was like, we have to cleanse, and I was really anxious about that.
Sure.
I didn't
Have you
want to
ever
do it alone.
cleansed before?
I mean, I do meditation to kind of clear
Okay.
out the energy around myself and whatnot. Um, Sage, I've never really used it. My husband has before.
Okay.
Um, so he did most of that. We just kind of saged it, sent out positive vibes.
Hmm.
I didn't want to go in the basement alone. Our basement's pretty, it's unfinished.
Sure.
So down and did that. We did all the windows and whatnot. And it seemed like it calmed down. Um, Periodically, actually, the room we're in, I'm actually in my bedroom. I would see someone walking back and forth from that door in here underneath the skylight at night. It never
So
freaked me out.
okay, so when you say that you saw somebody, was it like a shadow, or was it just something that was more translucent?
It almost looked like a shadow, but it was a person. It looked like a female.
Okay.
Um, it was almost in a dress, but it wasn't like an old dress. It was more,
Okay.
I don't know, kind of looked modern, but
Okay.
not modern. I don't really know how to explain it.
Okay.
It was dark
Hmm.
and I have the TV and that light was reflecting. So I can't give, I
Sure.
don't know.
Sure.
I'm
Sure. A lot
really
of
more of
times
a
I know people experience the shadows, and it really typically depends on your belief system. I can tell you, though, that shadows are not always a negative thing.
Yeah.
So a lot of times people associate negativity with shadows, but really it's just more of the energy and how it's perceived,
Hmm.
by our sensory system. And what we
Yeah.
see is just something that just is that movement more than anything. And so that's why I just wanted to clarify, because sometimes people do see almost translucent, like it's more of the outline of a person. So it's almost like the Invisible Man type look, where it's just the outline and very kind of you can kind of see through it. The other though is that shadow, where it's just the form of energy that's just
Yeah.
moving. So what you saw was that form of energy that was kind of dressed like it was a woman. Yeah, and obviously, and a lot of people always ask, well, how can you tell? Well, you can tell certain things with, hair, shoulders, and then,
Yeah.
clothing as well too, especially like you said, like that dress kind of look to it.
I mean, and it didn't feel negative at all. Like it didn't
Sure.
scare me. I was like, okay, that's cool.
Hmm.
Um, I'm just thinking, I was thinking to myself, like, okay, as long as it's not affecting me, I'm not
Hmm.
really gonna stress too much about it. So things like that periodically. A few months ago, things started to feel a little darker though. Downstairs specifically. Like I'm okay now because I've
Hmm.
kind of we've kind of cleansed again and whatnot, but I
Hmm.
wouldn't go downstairs and go to the bathroom by myself.
Okay.
I'd make my husband go down or the dog go down with me. But I would see someone walking in my kitchen, just like the kitchen in the dining room area. And it's like it wouldn't come anywhere. Um, in the living room, I didn't see this upstairs, and it was a shadow. It was just pure dark shadow. And it didn't really have a form. I would say it was like a person, but it was kind of a disfigured person.
Okay.
It was more of a disfigured shadow, I
Okay.
guess.
Okay.
So then that started happening, and then
And so when you
I
say
would,
that you wouldn't go down into your basement, and you had previously done it, and I know basements for a lot of people tend to be a hard thing because it's going down into something that's dark. And so our minds play a lot of tricks on us, and then we also think in certain forms. Like we think that going down is lowering that level of consciousness. Like you're going down into something seems scarier than going up and being elevated. Do you see what I'm saying?
yeah,
There's like this weird energy that goes to it. And so a lot of times the majority of people are afraid to go into their basements. And trust me, I know from my own experience, I've lived in homes where the basements, I don't want to go into them.
yeah,
And that feeling that you had subsided for a while, right? And then it came
yeah.
back up. So do you think there's a relation to the shadow that you were seeing on the main floor and the feeling that you had in the basement? Or do you think those were two separate things?
I I think it has something to do with it.
Hmm.
The bathroom always the bathroom is right above the basement.
Okay.
So there's weird feelings in there. Feelings of uncomfort. I do my best to block it out, because, that's the bathroom that's used
Sure.
frequently. You got to bathroom
Sure.
and my laundry in there. So I do think that maybe that whole area right there, and being in the basement, those feelings, that shadow, probably something. But I don't know. I don't know what it would be.
Hmm. And so what were some of the other experiences? Because I'm sorry I cut you off there, but you started to go into a different experience that had happened to you after that kitchen incident.
Yeah. So after that, it was probably like a few weeks ago. I was in bed. I had just gotten my daughter down. Her room's like right over here. I walk
Okay.
in here, my husband's in bed, and he goes downstairs to get some snacks. And I had forgotten to ask him to get me like a Pop-Tart, something so silly, but it's relevant.
Right.
So I'm laying in bed, and I hear him walk up the stairs, and I see him walk into the room right here. And I say, "Hey, can you go back down and get me a Pop-Tart?" And then it just disappeared. And I don't have an
Huh.
explanation for it. I thought it was him. It looked just like him, like it was mimicking him and everything.
Really?
That freaked me because I don't have an answer for that.
Yeah,
And
that would be pretty intense for a lot of people. Simply because you're also, when you see somebody, especially like your spouse or significant other, if you feel that energy is mimicking that, then you feel comfortable around it because you think that that's who that person is. And then if it just disappears and it's gone, that's actually a very scary feeling because it feels like it's almost not supposed to happen that way. Does that make sense? Like it's if it's going to be something that's positive, it's not going to do that to you. You know, it's going to actually kind of come through and not try to mimic somebody like a loved one or anything like that, because that seems to be more of a negative. And I'm not calling it a negative at all.
Yeah.
But I can understand where that would really be creepy, and that would really be a hard thing to experience and go through.
Yeah. It was pretty scary.
And you told your husband obviously about it.
I did.
And what did he say?
He's like, I don't want to talk about it. And I was like, what happened?
Okay, so is your husband is he a believer? Has he had experiences, or is he a skeptic to things?
He, it can be tricky. I mean, he gets scared, I guess. Like, he doesn't like to talk about it because he believes that it feeds into it and can make it worse.
Sure.
When he used to have an experience. He's actually right here. What was that? Frank. His mom told me about Frank. He used to slam doors in their house all the time, and she finally said, like, you have to leave, and he did leave.
Really?
But it was nothing ever bad. It was more like a playful spirit.
That sounds something like a poltergeist, though, slamming doors, moving a lot of stuff. And why did she call it Frank? Does he know?
He doesn't know, but she told me once, and I think there used to be, because this was a few streets from us, on the other side of 31 here, on Cherry Street, and I think in that house someone named Frank had lived there, but don't quote me on it.
Okay. So somebody that she knew named Frank who had passed on, and then she was just associating that energy to that person. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, that's really interesting.
Fun.
So growing up, I'm sure your husband, having experienced all of that, that's probably why he doesn't want to talk too much about it with you in this regard. He doesn't want to invite that energy, and I understand that completely. And, we've had things at my house as well, too, that's really interesting. And you are right, because it came up, my son, who is 2.5 right now, that was something that when my wife was pregnant, we had a lot of energy coming through. We had a lot of dreams about people. So a lot of things happen when children come in, to this reality, because they're marking that sort of change and that direction of, family energy that's being dynamic and growing and everything else. And so there's always these purposeful missions that we have, I believe, in this existence. And so a lot of times people might come in to make sure that happens. Does that make sense? Like, it's all positive.
Yeah.
And I definitely believe that if there is a negative, I don't want people out there to think that just because they experience a shadow or they experience something that feels creepy doesn't mean that it really is. It could just be your loved one, like your grandmother, or somebody who's watching over you, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. Which we can get into that more on I wanted to get back with the mimicking thing real quick, because my aunt she was here when my husband left from lunch to go back to work, and in that same entryway, she was cleaning our microwave or something, but her back was to that door.
Okay.
And Aaron leaves, he's gone, cars out of the driveway, everything. And she hears him come back in the house and say something, turns around, and he's not there. And her son was here with her, and she's like, Davey, did you hear anything? He's like, why are you asking if I heard anything? I didn't hear anything. She's like, oh, nothing, because she didn't want to freak her son out and whatnot.
Right.
And so that was, the end of that, but that's recent. That's the most recent thing that, that's happened.